You're listening to The Red Claw Edge, a podcast focused on local Maine businesses that inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. The Red Claw Edge is proudly sponsored by Prime Financial Services in Waterville and Mabingo Mountain Coffee, the official coffee of Red Claw Media, and our good friends at Kennebec Valley Community College.
This is the Red Claw Edge. Now over to our host, Sean Packard.
Welcome to the Red Claw Edge. I'm Sean Packard, and today we have with us one of the best realtors in town that I know, a dear beloved friend, Alonzo.
What's going on?
How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here, man.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, what kind of got you into this field?
I mean, pretty much right out of high school. I mean, a lot of us are like paralyzed with like, oh, like, okay, we're about to adult like a year from now. What do we do? And so I guess to go back a little bit. So I'm 22, and I would be graduating college right now, actually, if I had gone. But decided, out of my part-time job that I had right out of graduation, I met a guy there that was kind of like my mentor. And he's like, well, what are your plans? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to go out of state, like, get away from Maine, all that stuff. And he's like, well, why are you going to school? And he broke me down to a T, and he's like, all right, so your whys there's nothing sufficient behind the why. He's like, you're just going because this is what the mass is doing, which there's nothing wrong with school, by the way. Like, it just, it's not for everybody. But so that's kind of how, like, he really made me question. I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't be going to school. I'm like, why am I? And so, I was presented a unique opportunity where I'm like, all right. He said, well, have you thought about insurance? Have you thought about car sales? I'm like, no. How about real estate? And I'm like, that's intriguing. So I said, the risks were, okay, I go to 4-year school or whatever, get my master's or get my doctorates, whatever, and risk either halfway through not wanting to follow through with the degree or having a change of heart, and then either continuing on and accruing more debt for something that I'm not going to use, or backing out halfway through and having nothing to show for it. Or on the flip side, spend $475 and take 5 weeks of my time to do the real estate course. And at the time, that one was in Portland. And so I'm like, I have nothing to lose right now. I was like, I said, I might as well. So that's exactly, what I did. And I said, if this doesn't work, I'll go to school. I actually originally wanted to go to get my doctorate in physical therapy. So it was like a full 180. I said, you know what? Worst comes to worst, I'll just go back to school. And took the test, or took the course, passed the course, and then did a little bit of I was like with an off-market wholesaling investment group for a while. It was kind of weird, but it was a good experience. And then after that, I'm like, all right, I need to get my license, because you have to get your license within a year of taking the passing your course exam. So that's exactly what I did, and that was July of 2023. At that point when I had passed the state exam, and since then, I've sold over $30 million in real estate, and I've served well over 100 clients as of now. So
That's incredible.
yeah.
Did you know that the market was going to be as difficult as it has been prior to going to school or even qualifying for that course?
Dude, I had no clue what I was jumping into, bro. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, walking in the dark. I'm like, all right, get my license. And I'm like, I'm on top of the world. Like, because everybody, like, especially as a young man, I'm like, you want to, you want to be an entrepreneur, work for yourself. So coming out of high school, like I was running a mobile car detailing business, and I'm like, oh, real estate could be, way more than that. And much better career outlook. And so I was just like, I had the rose tinted goggles on. I was like, everything's going to be great. It was really good, but in a lot of ways it wasn't, because at the time, like when I got licensed, it was at the height of the COVID years.
Right.
So, 2024 was still a feeding frenzy. All the out-of-staters coming in, homes going multiple offers, way over asking, 50, 60,000 over asking, no inspections. Like it was still a feeding frenzy. So there's still a lack of inventory, way too many buyers. And it was super volatile. It was volatile in a good way for a lot of agents, because if you knew what you were doing and you had, good rapport, and you had your lead sources, and you had your you had your niche, then you were balling basically, but other agents weren't doing so well. Now things have like cooled off. We have the inventory, we have the healthy amount of buyers in the market, and interest rates are at an okay place, and so things are just kind of where they used to be. Even though they'll never go back to normal, it's the new normal. So I mean,
Sure.
I didn't really know, but I expected some shift in the industry. I didn't let it cloud my outlook too much because I didn't want to have like analysis paralysis, So yeah.
You have a office space in Oakland?
Yep.
Yeah. How many staff do you have right now?
In that office, I mean, we have a couple offices in Maine. Our primary office is out of Portland. For the brokerage, I work with Real Brokerage. So that's like the headquarter location for offices. But there's an office in Bridgeton as well, which I think there's only like 2 people licensed out of there. It's like a local mom and pop team with our brokerage that's down there. And then we opened ours it must have been last March. I think now we really opened it up, and I think we have 7 or 8 agents out of that office now so far.
Yeah.
So some of the agents we brought on from other brokerages are they're still with us, but they're just not licensed out of the office. So we have different office locations, different licensees hang their licenses at those locations. So, but staffed, I mean, there's probably 4 of us there a week. At any given point, we don't really have office hours, but we just go and it's quiet, so we just go there, lock in, do our appointments, and we are now hosting closings there too, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So you spoke to something that I think part of this podcast is literally designed to do, which is the fact, you're young, and you had a mentor step up and tell you some advice, and you took that advice, and you may not have gone to college, but you benefited from that advice, and you built a successful business around that, and a over $30 million card of clients. That's incredible. So what could you say to the next generation, the youth that are kind of struggling with, well, do I go to college? Do I not go to college?
Yeah. It's funny because that's exactly where I was at. I just, honestly, I think now more so than ever, I think a lot of people aren't going to school. Like they don't feel forced to, or maybe they feel like they're like, whoa, that's out of my capacity. Or I think people are now realizing like school is not as much of a necessity as it used to be, especially for a lot of careers, or a lot of career fields and different maybe entrepreneurship endeavors or whatever. So, I mean, my recommendation, like I think what's most practical, especially where we're in like a trade state, is I know a lot of the local high schools, you can do like tech school programs. So like at MMTC, for example, in Waterville, you can go and take like I think it's quarter long or semester long course there. And it would be in one of the trades. So it could be nursing, it could be carpentry, welding, automotive. I think that's probably the smartest thing is if somebody doesn't know what to do, try the trades first. If you know that that's the direction you're going. If you know that you're going to be more of a white collar worker, don't rush right into school. If you think you might have some unique opportunities trying something else, like maybe it's car sales, maybe it is insurance sales. You just pass and you get your license to sell, and then you try that. Worst comes to worst, I mean, you take your gap year and you just figure out what your likes and dislikes are. And then if you're like, all right, yeah, that was cool and all, but I don't think any of it's for me. Okay, then go to school. But I think too many people jump into the 4-year option and they're like, oh, I have to go, or maybe I want to go for the college experience or whatever. And it's just so not worth it because most of the time, I mean, I can't name off on my hands how many my classmates went out of state and then came back home just to hit the reset button again. And I'm like, I can't imagine if that was probably going to be me, had I gone. So trying out everything around, I mean, there's a lot here, there's a lot to do, a lot of people to work for, a lot of different side hustles. Side hustle is a big thing. Just trying to side hustle. If you're window cleaning, you might be pressure washing. For me, it was car detailing. Just do something. Cause like it may not be that forever. Like for me, it wasn't car detailing forever, but that opened up a whole side of my brain and interest of mine to pursue something that I could call my own. And that's how I'm at where I'm at right now. So just explore. I think people just need to explore a little bit more and just trial and error. Don't be afraid of, failing. I mean, it's a side hustle and you're 18 or 19 years old. You really don't have anything to lose. You know what I'm saying? So,
and I bring that up a lot, especially when I go to like MMTC or any of the community colleges. And I do a lot of mock interviews, and a lot of these kids, they're like, I don't really want to work at McDonald's or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is, though, that there's two things. One, there's a difference between a job and a career. And that job is temporary. That will get you, hopefully, to the point where you're on track to build your career. And then the other thing is that they're temporary. You know, they're not meant to last. There's something as to be a bridge towards your next direction. So you may be a window detailer or a car detailer or whatever it is, but it's not going to be forever. And having that mindset early on is super important, because then you are prepared for what's next, whatever that may be. And the beauty of it is you don't even know. But you're just excited and ready for it.
100%. 100%.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
So,
and to your point there too, like, you know, my saying was always, especially like, you know, my friends, and they're like, whoa, like, that's so cool. I'm like, yeah, it is. And they're like, well, what, you know, how did you get there? And I'm like, the 9 to 5 fuels the dream. And so like, I reamed on that 9 to 5 as long as I could. Like, I stretched that thing until it snapped. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good to make the leap. And then a lot of people are like, oh, I need to start a side hustle and skip the 9 to 5. I'm like, no. The 9 to 5 is your fuel to get out of the 9 to 5. Because nobody, I'm again, nothing wrong with the 9 to 5, right?
Sure.
There are a lot of people that love their 9 to 5s, but what I'm saying is those entry level jobs that late teens and early 20-year-old, in your early 20s, you don't want to stay in forever. That's your fuel. You use that money and you feed your side hustle. You use that money and you feed your goal or your dream, and you do that. I think people think, oh no, I'm just going to go right to the side. I'm like, how do you fuel it?
Right.
What are you using? Not only just the money aspect, the finances. How are you covering your bills while you're getting the side hustle up and going? And how do you fuel and pay for the side hustle, advertisement and equipment and all this other stuff? But it's also more so the experience. Like, oh, well, you don't know what it's like to work for somebody.
Right.
So how do you even know a 9 to 5 is what? I mean, how do you know being self-employed or running your own business is going to be for you anyways? Because you didn't have the distaste in your mouth from a 9 to 5 that you didn't want to be at forever. No, and
a lot of that comes from the 3 unteachables, right? One being confidence. Do they have confidence? You can't teach confidence, but hopefully they're building it up in their youth so that they're going to be successful. Then the other thing is passion. Do they have passion? That drive to be able to have ambition to get to their goal after they may be struggling with that 9 to 5. And then the last thing, which is perseverance. Are they getting through that difficult time and not waking up dreading their life every day, but rather using it as an opportunity to boost their emotions and their money so that they're able to get to that next level. And and all those things are mindsets. And so I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, how is that person so successful? Well, a lot of it came down to realizing the only way to get there is to just have a different mindset.
100%.
And so learning that as early on as you have is huge. Like, you know, for both of us. I mean, I'm not obviously that old either. I'm only 29. And, you know, I've seen the growth that even I've had. And I've only worked in management when I worked in retail. And then obviously, you know, coming into something like this where it made sense, but I also did a ton of side hustles. And so I didn't even know that I was, doing that as like a goal to get here, but I was. And,
exactly.
You know, all the equipment that you see here has been purchased prior to here. I had a home office and ended up, it was an easy transition because of those side hustles, you know, working towards the goal of one day doing something like this. So it's incredible to see again from you from such a young age. Yeah,
dude. I think like, you know, it maybe it's just me. Like, you know, I didn't have a super great upbringing. I mean, my parents are amazing. They'll shirt off their back for us to make sure we had what we needed. But you know, financially, like, I mean, dude, we, like, that's just one of the chips on my shoulder was I'm like, I don't want my kids to have to worry about this. I don't want my wife to have to worry about this. And, you know, grew up pretty much in complete poverty. We got foreclosed on. Like those are all pieces of motivation for me. And I'm like, okay, but I didn't just hate this like suffering. I learned after a while, I'm like, I had to embrace, it sounds really corny, honestly, but like, you're like, oh, people are embrace the suffering, but like, no, like actually though, embrace the hardship, because we get to choose our hard. You know, guy I listen to, his name's Andy Frisella. He runs a one of the world's famous like motivation podcasts and self-improvement podcasts of the world. It's called Real AF. He says, you know, we get to choose our hard, right? And we get to choose our pain. You know, we have a pain of discipline or a pain of regret. And it's with every decision that we have, every single thing, every day, we have a choice to say, all right, well, that happened. That sucks. Am I gonna mope and be like, oh, you know, like, woe is me? Or am I gonna, like, you know what? I prayed to be here. I wanted to be here so bad. And, you know, I have more on my plate because I can handle it. So that's actually just a result of that. That's actually a blessing. You know what I'm saying? It's just a total like you said, it's a total perspective shift. And I think we need to be comfortable with suffering, and most people aren't. And that's okay. Like, you know, it's human nature. We're like, oh, this sucks. But I really think that's more motivation and fuel than it is anything else. And it's just, I think it's all a mindset shift, honestly. Yeah. So, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the realty world right now. Do you focus on commercial, residential, and then, you know, what are your aspirations for yourself and the business?
Yeah. So I do a little bit of everything. Most of what's around here is land and residential. So that's primarily what I'm selling. I do dabble in some commercial. I did a couple of commercial sales last year, and then I have one right now that I'm a part of. I don't do any leasing. There's not a whole lot of leasing opportunity around here. It's not like it's like, you know, greater Boston where like everybody's leasing everything. So there's not a whole lot of that up here. So primarily residential and land, but you know, where there's commercial opportunity, I take advantage of that too, because it's good to be well-rounded. As far as goals, I mean, I don't really have any specific goals getting into it. I'm just like, all right, like, I need to get my life together. I want to get ahead now. I said, you know, economically, things are only going to get harder was my prediction. And so I'm like, okay, like, I should just get my stuff together, and, you know, get set up and be responsible, you know, fiscally. Other than that, you know, now that I've been in it for a few years, I think like long-term goals is I've gone across the country a few times just to watch these coaches. They were in my shoes at one point, and to see how passionate they are about teaching and about coaching. I want to coach. At the end of the day, I mean, I'll still sell real estate. I'll still, you know, the biggest thing right now is we're trying to build our investment portfolio with multifamily properties and investments and whatnot, and create, you know, financial stability and long-term wealth through that. But my like long-term goal, like end goal, is to coach and to see, to look back at 18-year-old me and somebody else and say, hey, I was there, you know, here's what it's going to take. And how can I give you the tools and resources to help you with that? You know what I'm saying? And achieving that.
And we've talked a little bit about like Life Surge and a few of the other. So it is an incredible opportunity. You not only it gives you a platform and a voice in front of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but even more than that, it speaks to your passion and your resilience and what you've gone through. And then again, even still, right? You're only 2 years into this, and yet you already have a big desire to be able to do something far greater than just you, and that's incredible. So I hope to be able to next talk to you when you've done that, right? When you're one of those that have to pay for to see. So. And get your signature and everything.
Pack's getting in free, by the way.
Oh, all right. That's great.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about you as a person. You know, like obviously I know you outside of your work. You're engaged, right? Or
I'm married now. Yeah.
Oh, you're married now.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I knew that. I should. We're gonna cut that. Kids soon.
That's what we're thinking.
Okay.
That's the conversation right now.
Okay.
You know? We're taking be fruitful and multiply very seriously, and more than just investments wise. We'd love to start a family soon. And
Great.
so we're kind of praying about that and figuring out, it's never going to be perfect timing. I think anybody watching this has kids, it's and
exactly.
there's never a perfect time. So we're just like, okay, like we want to be prepared physically, mentally, spiritually, but it's never going to be perfect. So we're just like, all right, let's figure out what that looks like. And we're thinking, we're thinking probably in the near future soon,
Awesome. All
yeah.
right.
So
Great.
yeah.
Yeah. What would you say, I suppose, to somebody who wants to start a business in general, but they don't know what? I think that this is something that a lot of people struggle with. They're like, I do want to start a business. I don't really know what. What would you give for words of advice to be able to maybe help them along to find that niche? And I know you mentioned vocational school, but let's say that they're slightly older, they're already out of high school. Maybe they did or didn't go to college, but they know that they want to be a business owner. Maybe they're even versed in it. Maybe they've done management.
Yeah.
But more specifically, they just don't know the field.
It's find a demand and meet it. There's a lot of demand and a lot of things. Find a demand and meet it, especially services. Products, a lot of the products are already established. It's services, like at least here in Maine, it's services. So for me, it was 2020, and my dad at the time was director at a tech school, and so I was like, I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm like, let me figure out, like, am I going to go that way? And one of the teachers came over, and we were in the auto. We were like in the auto shop of the building, I guess. And he's like, hey, can you guys like clean my car? I'm like, sure. Like, why not?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. This is something everybody has. Most people, 91% of Americans have a car in their driveway. Or I think that's something like that. So, okay, most people have a vehicle. Most people need to commute. But then I'm getting analytical. I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. I just went to a place, like I'm here and they brought the car to me, but what if I brought the service to them? So now you open up your audience or your prospective client base like 2, 3, 4-fold. You're like, okay, now it's not limited to people that come to me. What if I can go to them? So traveling services are huge right now. I mean, traveling mechanics, traveling car detailers, mobile car detailers, all like you see like the Safe Light Repair, like auto glass places, they come to you, like all of the convenient services. If somebody can pay for your convenience, you're probably going to get a lot of business. Like that's just the world we live in. So finding a demand and meeting that, and then finding your niche in that, which, again, if it's, it might be mobile electronic repair. I've seen that too. People are like, oh, we'll come to you in a van, and the back setup of our van has all of the equipment to repair your iPad or your computer. I'm like, dude, never in my life, I never thought that would ever exist. Like, at least during my lifetime, I'm like, sure. Just don't think about that. You're like, oh, you take it to the repair store, take it to Techie down the road,
Right.
So that's what I'd recommend. Find what's in need, and then see if you can multiply your business even more by upgrading that service to something that adds even more convenience to the life of the customer. So that's that's endless. So
yeah, you talked about something that's very very pertinent, which is a pain point. Find a pain point in your community, and how can you address that pain point?
Yeah.
And then if try to find your passion within that, because you'll find that for most people, I think, and I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for the most part, if you're filling that need, that pain point, you'll find value in it, in yourself doing that, even if it isn't the thing that you thought you might be doing one day, but doing it for someone else fills that need. And that's incredible.
And to touch on that before I forget, the biggest thing in that feeling of like success, that feeling of like fulfillment, is the service in that. Right. It's not necessarily the service that was provided, it's the act of service in the product or the service that was given. Yeah. So like literally just caring enough to go a little bit further for that customer or for the client, like car detailing wise, I would always throw in a little something I didn't need to do. They didn't maybe pay me or hire me to do it, but they just seeing the reaction at the end, and they're like, oh my gosh, this was so convenient. You came to my driveway. I have a hard work schedule and my hip's bad, like whatever. Like, and they're like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like that. It's the service aspect of it. And I think 10 times out of 10, people will go so much farther if they actually care to serve the person, serve the customer, serve the client, than just provide the service. Because that's what a lot of people do. They provide the service. It's like, okay, you hired me to do this, I do that. But the difference is that lacks passion. You can have passion in anything. You have passion cleaning toilets. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be, bartender or buffing tables, or you could be, you could be parking cars valet, in front of a mansion. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you have the care in what you're doing, the joy isn't the action. Like I said, it could be toilets, it could be a mansion. Like, it doesn't matter. It's the service that you're providing to make somebody's life easier, to make their day better, to whatever. And it sounds, like I said, this all sounds like maybe sound cliche, but it's true. It's just the act of service.
And that's what differentiates you between the competition too, because most of the time, if you look at competition, it's the fact that the reason that they may not be as successful as that you aspire to be is the fact that you care. Yeah. And that passion for helping actually provide a personable service is there. And that goes beyond any other competition.
Exactly.
And the other thing too to think about too is, there's tons of competition around. Your idea may not be something new necessarily,
right?
But it's that one piece, that one element that we've been talking about, passion and in the service that will set you apart. And so don't feel like, wow, there's already 10 of these around. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What are you going to do will set the 10 apart?
Exactly.
Well, the thing will be the fact that you care, and that's huge.
Yep.
And it's sad that there are so many around that don't.
100%.
That's such a simple thing to do. It's
100%.
like, just be real.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little cliche there.
Hence why.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about getting into the buying a house world right now. Right. It's crazy. Things are very expensive. How can somebody young, or even somebody who's just looking for a residential home in this area, how can they best prepare for that? And do you have any steps or guiding advice to be able to maybe help alleviate the fact that the numbers are so high?
Yeah. Like right off the rip, get in touch with the right professionals early on. You might be years from buying. And this goes for anything. Like I invested my first $20 with my financial advisor, and I was like dead broke. I was like part-time job, high school kid, no clue what I was going to do. He invested his time into me. He's like, let's sit down, and every cent that you have in that first $20, let each cent have a name to it and a purpose and a something it's going to do, put it to work. And I'm like, wow, like that was a totally different way of looking at it. So he said, whether it's $20 or 20,000 or whatever, make sure it has a purpose for what your long-term goal is. And I'm like, dude, that's kind of like the idea of stewarding over what you have in the present moment, even if it's small. So you might have $1,000 saved. You're like, I have $1,000. I got my tax return. I got $1,000 towards a home. Okay. $1,000 might not quite be enough, but that's the start. And if you continue to compound and multiply that, and the same saving habits, it's all money habits, comes down to money habits. And, most schools aren't even teaching this. I didn't learn how to write a check in high school.
No.
Balance a checkbook. I didn't know how to do my taxes, nothing. Like I took a financial class. It was like an elective. So you had to elect into doing it. It wasn't even required. And that's where I learned like most of like my financial literacy in a 3-month class, or not even 2, it's 2.5 month class that was not required, that most people didn't take. So right now, a lot, what we're running into is it's financial ignorance or illiteracy, not knowing how to handle your money, not knowing how to have saving habits, immediate gratification, dopamine hits with buying stuff, and not knowing how to budget, and not I wouldn't say it's necessarily the fault of the person doing it, because they learned the habit somewhere. Now, yes, we're all at fault for our own habits and continuing to do them if we know we could do better. But most people don't even know in the first place what's the importance of doing this. So, for me, I got in touch with my mentors, with the right, advisors, with mortgage lenders early on, because I wanted to have my ducks in a row. And I went to people that had good experience, not only on their own, but through many other clients, and they knew what they were doing. And people that had the patience and time to sit down with me and say, hey, I could say to them, hey, I'm not a buyer for another 2 years, but I will use you 110%. You have my word, because if you help me now, I will be there, because I want to be there. Like, it's something I yearn for. So that's my recommendation to younger people right now, is get in touch with the professionals early on. The professionals that care in service, back to the service aspect of it, will sit down and put a game plan into place. Like, I do that with people all the time. Hey, my credit's shot. I don't have any money in the bank. And I ask them, my first question is, but do you really want it? And they say, yeah. If they say yes, like, we sit down and we'll put a full comprehensive game plan together. I'm no financial advisor, but like, I'll show them how to, call it credit bureaus and knock down what their collections are, like settle their debts and maybe you get a secured card to build your credit back up, and all these other things. Like, these services that you provide, yes, you may not be paid in the moment for them, but you're adding value long term to that person, and that person's going to remember that. Most of the time, people will remember that and be like, "Whoa, Sean sat down with me, and he invested some time into doing some media for my small business. Alonzo sat down with me, and I'm not a buyer for 2 more years, but he invested time." You're going to get so much business from that, because you care, because the service you provided added that much value to that younger person. Or maybe it's not a young person. The average home buyer, dude, this is going to blow your mind, is 40 years old in the U.S. For the first time home buyer. That's halfway through your working life, which is crazy. Right. So how do we eliminate that 40 and put a 2 or a 3 back in front of it? You know what I'm saying? And that's just it. Like, get in touch with the right professionals. But you got to want it. It's money habits. It's putting small, tangible goals into place that you can actually achieve, because far too often we bite off more than we can chew. And we have these huge goals and we never achieve any of it because they're too big. So we don't even know what step to take, but then we have analysis paralysis, and the steps, even if we had them in front of us, are too big to take. So then we're like, oh, we fear it. We stop, and we just keep doing what we know to do. So that's my recommendation. There's plenty of state programs, Maine State Housing, and there are these grants for first generation home buyers. Like, there's plenty of programs that the state uses, which is one of the benefits of being in Maine, to assist younger first-time home buyers, or any first-time home buyer for that fact, to get into a property or to start their first investment. For me, my personal recommendation, you're going to save your money, keep track of your credit score, know what loan option you want to go with, whether it's a year or 2 from now, so you know what to save, and then kind of know what we might be able to negotiate on. And then from there, you have a pretty good idea of the direction you want to go. And my recommendation at a young person, this is what we did, is I bought a multifamily. You owner occupy one. I've talked about that before. Owner occupy a unit, and then you rent the other ones out. And you're gonna, whether you buy a house or you buy a multifamily property, you have one roof and you have a whole building, and you still have a heating system and plumbing and electrical. You still have everything else to maintain. It's the same thing. It might be on a slightly larger scale, but nonetheless, you're gonna have to maintain a house. Right. Anyways, you're going to have to pay for the repairs and do this and do that. So you might as well have a property that provides you value in offsetting your mortgage, which does add security long term. Instead of having a $3,000 mortgage on a house, and then you're paying that, and you're paying your car bill, and you're paying your insurance and this and that. And then, what happens if I lose my job? It's the angst, like the anxiety. I rather provide security. So what's that security? Live in one unit, rent the other, or if you have 2, rent the other 2 out. Pretty much pays the mortgage. If not, you might make a little bit. You put that towards the utilities, and now you're off to the races, because now you eliminated your cost of living almost completely. But if not, you've probably offset it by 60 to 70 to 80% if it's like a 2 unit, for example, which is huge. And you look at that money, you're that much farther ahead every single month you collect that rent check. Even if you don't see it and that's going right to the mortgage, you're that much further ahead because it's less out of your pocket. So that's my biggest recommendation. And there's plenty of multifamily properties around. There's a plethora of them. We have the benefit of living in the oldest state by age, population age. So we have a lot of, we call them tired landlords. They're retiring, they're selling off their portfolios. These are buildings that are some of them are outdated, but there's sweat equity there for a buyer. Like, oh, okay, buildings, the condition's good, but it's just outdated. It's got 80s carpet on the wall, bathroom wall, and on the floor and everything. The kitchen's old, but I can go in there and I can tear that out and do that as I live here. You know what I'm saying? Or pay for it over time instead of having to buy a house that's already been renovated for top dollar. You just pay for somebody else's labor, do it yourself or hire it out yourself cash or over time, snowball it. And now you're talking 5-10 years from now, you have an updated property that you bought on the lower end of the scale, and there's that appreciation and the equity built through the repairs that you did, and also the market appreciation of how residential real estate typically appreciates anyways. It just goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my recommendation. Get in touch with other people, know who you're looking for, and people that actually know what they're doing. Another point I'll touch on is a lot of professionals that you get in touch with, not all of them are the same. You know this too. I'm not saying this to say like, oh, don't talk to anybody else but Sean Packard and Alonzo Michaud. But at least in our industry, 71% of licensed realtors last year didn't close a single deal.
Wow.
Over 71%. That's like if I were to go to an attorney's office and they didn't have a single case last year. Like somebody said, hey, Alonzo, like you hit me in the sidewalk. I'm now the defendant. And I go to Joe Schmo attorney's office and I'm like, oh, how many cases did you guys do last year? None, one maybe. Like, do I have confidence in that guy, or do I have confidence on the guy on the billboard, or the guy that's on social media, the guy that has the reviews, or the guy that I know he's won cases? Like, that's who I want to work with, because it's clear that their track record of success shows that they have passion and care for what they're doing. They're diligent about their work. And so that's probably going to deliver me a result that I'm happy with. So talk to the right people. That's the other thing. So vet them out. The vetting is the big thing there too.
Yeah, that is huge. I mean, there's something to be said about the people that have the presence, right? Whether it's online or whether it's just in their physical form of showing up, being there. Presence is key. If they're active and loud in your community, it's for a good reason. Whether it's they're up and coming, which is still a good reason, or they're dominating the area. And they only got there through perseverance, their passion, their compassion for people, and growing their business successfully. And that can't be looked at as a bad thing. I think too many small businesses in the area boom, and then people are like, oh, well, they're not a small business anymore. No, they have shown their grout. They have worked their butt off, and they deserve the recognition, and they deserve more business too. I
agree.
100%. It doesn't take away from the other small peers around them. If anything, it should be a call to action. They should be like, wow, what am I doing wrong that I want to get like them? So let me start stepping up too. And that's what we have to start realizing is that if you see something and you want it, the only way to get there is to fight for it and to be successful and to strive for something like that, the other peers around you are doing.
100%. I small business should not stay small. And when I say that, it doesn't mean like, oh, go become a Walmart.
Right.
Or go, be a franchise and like have a gazillion different locations, which that's, fine too, as long as if the service is good and the product remains the same, have a million locations. Like it does not matter. I think being here in Maine, again, older thought process, train of kind of way of thinking is it's a very traditional, like, oh, small business should stay small business, because if it gets too big, then it's not good anymore. Like, oh, or the service isn't as good, or the products aren't as good. And now you might be a returning customer, but you're put on the back burner because they got a lot more business. You should want that small business to thrive, because if they don't and they're a dying business, there's something wrong there. Yeah. Whether it's the product, the service, or how they're functioning on the back end and running the business, and I think we see that a lot. I mean, downtown Waterville, I've lived here all my life, moved away for a few years and came back. But even then, Waterville, like, early, like 2012, 2013, 2014 was still like, when I remembered as a kid, still wasn't like it is now. And I basically 2015, 2016 is when I really started noticing. I'm like, wow, okay, people are buying up. And then COVID came, and then like it was a ghost town. But I mean, you look at Waterville, I mean, a lot of the small businesses that were like wicked small and like kind of like in the armpit of the city are now on Main Street and
Yep.
they're thriving, and it's a really nice downtown area and this and that. That's what a healthy local economy should look like.
Yeah.
We should want that. And so that's what happens when you believe local, buy local, support local.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be local, but I'd rather buy local than buy at the, buy at the grocery store.
Agreed.
You know, and I think it's good for everybody because that's, again, common connections, small business, everybody's intertwined, and it's all word of mouth here. So,
Well, and in realty, you stimulate the economy through small business growth, then taxes are affected in the city in the right way,
Exactly.
positively rather
Exactly.
than negatively. And
Yep.
so, speaking about some of that regulation and state things, how has that affected some of the marketplace in realty specifically, as we've seen kind of the shift and weird changes that have happened in Maine state government?
yeah. So, not, just surface level and not get too political with it, just based on the facts. Property taxes have gone up tremendously. We are certainly not the lowest state or the cheapest state property tax wise. I think we're in the top 5 or top 10 for property taxes. COVID wise, from 2020 to 2025, homes here appreciated almost 75%, which is the highest in the nation. So instead of an average year over year appreciation, which is typically for residential homes, it's like 3 to 5% in the good years. It was 15%, was almost 15% was the average during COVID. Highest in the US, not California, not Massachusetts, Maine. Energy costs here have gone up,
a lot.
36% year over year from 24 to 25, something stupid like that. And then 80 something percent over the last 8 years or whatever. Paraphrasing what I've seen so far for statistics, like that's huge because that does affect affordability. When people ask me, why is it hard to buy homes in Maine? My answer every single time is it is an affordability issue. Yes, property goes up everywhere. Yes, property taxes go up because municipality passes passes a raise and they're an increase and they need to maintain the roads, and I get all that. Like I think yes, we got to put back into the city too, and where we're living locally that matters. But at the scale that it's at, property taxes have increased, housing's increased, but wages have not met the level of increase we've seen in those other categories for costs of living,
Right.
energy, properties, etc., or utilities and properties. So, that's a huge issue. So, I mean, I think now more so than ever, I'm kind of plugged in, especially as a property owner in Waterville. I'm plugged into a lot of the policies, the politics, the bills that are being put through. And I'm paying attention to that too, because that affects us. A lot of people, I think it's easier to say, oh, it doesn't affect me. It affects everybody. And if it doesn't affect you in the way you think it will, it's going to affect you in a way that you don't think it will.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's on the back end. Uncle Sam's going to get his money. That's what I tell people. I said, just matters where. Like, New Hampshire, you might have lower property taxes, but you have you have a view tax, or you may not have a sales tax, but you have a view tax. I didn't even know that. Like, if you have a view, like a partial view to a lake, the town taxes you on that. I'm like, what the heck? So, same thing here is like, it's going to be made up somewhere. So knowing what that is locally and then at a state level is super important. Whether, whatever party you belong to or whether you're indifferent, it does matter what's being passed. And that's super important because it does affect you. And if you want to be a homeowner or you want to be a successful business owner, you don't want to be priced out of your community because of the cost to run a business and how much we're taxed, then, make your voice heard and talk about it openly. Have this, conversations
Vote.
just like this. Like just have a conversation, because the second we stop talking, we said this off air earlier, is the second we stop talking is when we have problems.
Yeah.
Because now things are stagnant and now things are just being run the way they've been run, and there is nothing to be changed. Because
Right.
nothing's changing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've seen that. It's been a hardship for a lot of people. A lot of out-of-staters are coming in, and it's vacation land, so a lot of secondary properties, vacation properties being bought up for personal and short-term rental use. But, I talk to a lot of young people, like, I don't want people to give up yet either.
Right.
I'm like, hey, what are the ways around it? How is it possible to buy a property? How is it possible to afford living on your own and running a business without being run out of business because of the cost, what it costs here? And there are ways. It just, there's different facets to that.
Discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you talk about all those numbers and the increases in the state of Maine. What incentivizes somebody to move here at this point?
That's a good question, man.
Well,
Yeah.
from a personal standpoint,
Yeah.
right, it would be our communities and whatnot. But
Yeah.
no, from a residential standpoint or a incentivizing standpoint, what would incentivize somebody to move here?
Well, I'll just shoot from the hip. Knowing what people have moved here for, based on my experience directly with these people, is it's primarily, location for a lot of people. They love that you're an hour to the coast, hour to the mountains, hour to the city, basically an hour to anything, less than an hour, to all the major sites of Maine that you could see, the geographic locations. It's a booming place real estate wise for investments. I say that with a grain of salt because before 2020 it was obviously a lot better, but rentals here are pretty good. I mean, if you're, whether it be short-term rentals like an Airbnb on a lake, it's insane.
I've talked with people, other business owners that have Airbnbs, and so there's one in Oakland, $1 million home. They turned it into an Airbnb, and they book it every night. And that's insane to me. I'm thinking like that. Obviously, if you dollar over dollar per month, they're making more money than they would if they rented it. So the investment is high to be able to buy a $1 million home, right?
Exactly.
But the return long term for an Airbnb in such place is incredible. Because how the money translates is this: is like you could go to North Carolina, or you could go to Georgia or something. You could buy a property down there on the water for half as much. But in turn, you're in an area that's probably more populated, that is kind of more saturated. You're getting less per night or per month for rent, whichever way you go with it. And the overall appreciation, there's probably going to be less as well, because it's not as highly sought after. So when you buy in Maine, it kind of evens out. It cost wise, it depends obviously, but when you buy $1 million lake house here, but you can get $700 a night on Airbnb, right? And
it's a place that will always be highly sought after, especially being vacation land,
right?
That's probably a safe investment.
That's huge, and you're making so much money.
Yeah,
that $1 million will be paid off in 4 or 5 years, like theoretically.
Dude,
that's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane. Like I had a client buy in Sebago a few months ago, 2 months ago. It was like a $2.3 million property, and July alone, the rental income was going to be $78,000.
Wow! For
July alone, the property brings in like something like $280,000 a year in Airbnb.
That's crazy.
I'm like, that's a salary at Goldman Sachs in Boston, dude. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's what, 7.5 years paid off.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
In theory, yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So that's that's a reason. That's a reason a lot of people out of state will buy real estate here. Location geographically, like 4 seasons, beautiful fall time, really nice spring and summer. Other than that, it's hard because a lot of locals I'm finding in conversation, don't want to stay here. It's almost harder. Like as locals, we're priced out more than the out-of-staters are priced out.
I mean, you got to think, coming from an other state, typically, you're from a city or larger city, you're making more money. And we're pretty capped on how much a person can make in the state of Maine. Yeah. Because anything above 25 an hour, and now you're starting to get into like you're in a specialty field, you're a doctor, a lawyer, you own something where you're above that $25, where our minimum wage is $15.10. Yeah. So, we're in a weird situation where, we are pricing ourselves out.
Yep.
Not only that, though, our biggest export, and I know a lot of people have talked about this, and I'm definitely not shy to say it, but our biggest export is our kids.
Yeah.
We whether they're going to college or not,
Mm-hmm.
we're saying it's better to go because you've seen what it's like to stay here.
Yep.
And so we need to find a way to empower the young business owners that we have here and say it is possible. It's a grind. It's not easy.
Yeah.
We can't shy away from the fact that it's hard.
Sure.
But if we can help them in any way to build up a business that's successful, and then they stay here, that's what we need, because then those prices do go down, and then it is more livable for that next generation. So, but if we keep pushing, our youth out, then the prices are only going to keep going up.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I mean, it takes time. Like, turnover takes time to change policies, to change demographics of different locations in the state, whether it be, cleaning up Portland's South End, or maybe we're just talking about jobs altogether, like job opportunities, vacancies, vacancy rates, all of it. Like, it takes time. It's not an overnight thing, which is why it's hard, because if we can't get on the same page, it's always going to be a back and forth.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And red and blue, different policy, boom. And then that switches over, and then boom. And then it's just I look at it like a tug of war more so. So if we can just get enough people to stay and say, all right, like, let's get on the same page with this. Yes, nobody's ever going to be completely on the same page, but it takes time. I mean, you look at these other states and they're getting 100,000 net people moving in a year, a month, whatever. It's insane. And like, okay, well, if we just had that rate of people staying, in investing back into the state, I think we would look a lot different. Even if that happened 10 years ago, what would, from in 2016 to 2026, what it would look like now?
Sure.
But we've already lost so much. So it's the how,
and the people need to realize that, even when you have good policy made, it's a lot of undone.
Yes.
Things, the next person that comes in, they're like, well, I got to undo everything that last person did, despite it being something that might have benefited the community or town. And so we have to, rather than feel like we're at tug of war, work together and find that unity.
Yeah.
And it all does start at the local municipalities and works its way up.
Yep. 100%.
So
yeah.
And but it sounds like a lot of inspiring youth to stay but B, to start early.
Yeah.
So find a financial advisor. Realize that, even if you only have change or $20, it can grow.
Yeah.
And to invest it early.
Yep.
And then to not feel like overwhelmed, I would say, by the noise that's out there. That your voice does matter,
100%.
and that you can find and build a success, whatever that may look like.
Yeah.
And really, I think it does come down to a few things, but one that we both share equally is mentors.
Yeah.
Find a mentor, find somebody, seek that person who is giving you advice, and listen to it. God gave you 2 ears and only one mouth, and you ought to listen a little bit more than try to preemptively speak all the time.
100%. And I mean, there's a lot of constructive criticism too. Like there aren't many people here that feel like they can say their mind anymore, because they've almost been like society, like in the way we look at things now, like they feel like their opinion doesn't matter, and so they just shut it out. But there's a lot of wise mentors out there, men and women that we could learn from, that feel now like, oh, well, younger generation doesn't care, so I'm not going to say my piece. That's a lot of wisdom going out the window right there, because people don't want to listen, and they're not open to constructive criticism, feedback. They're not even open to a conversation, dude.
Right.
Like, you try walking on the street and looking at somebody and just saying hello or have a random conversation. It doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a big thing too. Just, there is a lot of noise. It's a lot of noise, and just being able to see past that, kind of just stay in your lane. Not saying stay in your lane and isolate, but stay in your lane and don't focus on that. Like, your lane should also include networking. It should include conversations with people and just opening up.
Find the people that will listen to you and will have that conversation, because the reality is that those people that don't want to talk to you, eventually they're going to be the people that will want to talk to you.
100%.
And you can't fixate on the fact that they're not talking to me. Nobody wants to listen to me. No. Find the people that do and will, because everybody around, once you're noisy, in other words, not a part of the noise, once you're loud and once you're successful, people will want what you have.
And dude, here's the thing, and that's huge. What I just thought of too is like, maybe it's not because they don't want to, but they don't know how to.
They don't know how. Yeah.
I mean, communication wise, like some of these people are just shut in, like, you know, and I mean, COVID really didn't help with that. But now we're all antisocial and we can't talk.
Right.
Maybe they don't know how to. And if you're the one to break them out, maybe you're the one to talk, you might be the one to break them out. And then, I mean,
you
that's
might
a
be their
web.
mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a spider web, dude. Like then they start to do that and then you keep doing it with other people. That's why that matters like so much, dude. And being involved, like I more so now than ever, I think it's the most important thing to be involved in local community efforts, be in the referral groups, meet for coffee with professionals and young professionals and yada, 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 host events. Like that's important because we're more in tune, but also again, back to our original point is if we function as a small community together, we can't function without that. So if you're not plugged in, you're kind of shut out. And that's why a lot of, you see a lot of people that don't know how to they're like, how do I grow? Well, just get involved. That's literally it. That's my first recommendation. Just get involved, throw yourself out there. You might be brand new and got everything yesterday, but if you can have those conversations, like, we were talking about Bill Mitchell earlier, great guy. And, he's a very wise man, well-known in the area. I was talking to my buddy and he's like, I showed him that I wanted to have an opportunity and I wanted to leech onto his knowledge. And I just want to soak it in like a sponge. And he said, Bill took to me in that. And I'm like, dude, that's what we need. And I think people ahead of us that have lived, that have lived through their working life and have something to share, bring to the table, they want to. They do naturally. I think we want to as people. We want to share that, but they don't feel like they can because they're not sure if people even want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Or want to listen or want to take after that, you know?
Right.
So,
and more of this next generation, whatever it may look like, they need to be willing to talk to those people.
Yeah.
I remember when I was really young, in Mrs. Voss's class at Winslow Junior High, going to all these veterans and hearing their story, and some of them World War II veterans.
Wow.
And that meant the world. Like it's so emotional. And then not only that, though, it's lived experience. It's tenacity that we don't see. And also it's something that I tangibly can't witness outside of my window or going downtown. And so to hear those lived experiences allowed for me to say, these guys did it.
Yeah.
And they're telling me that I can do things too. That's incredible.
Yes.
They feel like I can do whatever I want. And they're helping inspire me to do that and encouraging me. And so that's what people need to latch onto is that there are community members, business owners who have been around here 50 plus years. And those people are willing to talk with you. You just have to be willing to start that conversation. And it's not hard. It may feel daunting. It won't go away. So don't feel like you have to wait for it to go away, because what will go away are those business owners and the opportunities that they may hold for you.
Exactly, dude.
So,
it's not in our human nature to do that.
no, but we got to break that
So
mold.
we have to break that. Yeah.
And when people are like, well, this kid's going to go far because he's going to, he's breaking the mold. That's that element. And so it's nothing special. It's not about finances. It's not about how much education he has had. It is about the fact that he broke the mold by having conversations that may have felt tough at the time, may have felt even demeaning maybe because like, oh, geez, I want to get there, but I can't do that. Me? No way.
Maybe another guy.
I don't have the money to do something like that. And that's, you feel like you have to have something that you don't. But the reality is you have it and you've had it all along. And so
Man,
that's what
good,
we
yeah.
that's what we need to inspire in our
100%,
youth.
dude. 100%.
Well, anyway, Lonzo, I do have to call it a close here, but I am very excited with the things that you're going to do around town. I'm happy to have you on here.
I appreciate it.
You are a very, very inspiring realtor in this area.
Real brokerage. Like I said, our office is right in Oakland. Don't let age fool you. Experience is what matters, and would love to serve you however I can. So
Great.
awesome.
I appreciate it, Alonzo.
Thank you for having me
so
today,
much.
man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You're listening to The Red Claw Edge, a podcast focused on local Maine businesses that inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. The Red Claw Edge is proudly sponsored by Prime Financial Services in Waterville and Mabingo Mountain Coffee, the official coffee of Red Claw Media, and our good friends at Kennebec Valley Community College.